When the Xbox 360 store shut down in 2024, we forever lost many zombie video games, as they were digital-only non-backwards compatible titles, and today I will be reviewing and discussing several of these games and doing some game preservation. Timestamps in the description in no particular order. The first game I want to discuss is Zombie Driver HD, a top-down shooter developed by Exor Studios and published by Nordic Games. I believe this title cost $4.99 before the 360 store closed, and I'd say it was worth the same price as a pre-inflation Little Caesars Hot and Ready. This title is short and sweet, taking roughly 5 hours to finish, and I somewhat recently beat it for the second time, and I must say, I enjoyed my recent playthrough more than I did my first, likely due to having some experience. The game consists of 31 levels, ranging from levels where you have to kill a bunch of Zeeks, or rescuing survivors and bringing them to a military base, boss battles, etc. And this title provides a solid selection of vehicles to complete your tasks with, although I personally found the bus to be the best, as it holds very solid base stats. Plus, it's able to transport more survivors than any other vehicle. Combat is overall fun. You can either shoot or ram Zeds with your set of wheels. Or, you can sometimes light them on fire with your afterburners in the event a zombie is behind you. Ammunition drops are scattered around the levels, and while there are 4 unlockable weapons in the story, I only acquired 2 and max upgraded them, being the flamethrower and the machine gun. On my first go-round, I purchased the other 2 weapons as well, being laser beams and rockets, but I found them to be a hindrance more than anything else due to their puny ammo reserves, so I skipped them on round 2 so that I would only receive MG rounds and flamer gas, with the machine guns being my preferable weaponry over roasting Zeds to a crisp with the flamethrower. Story-wise, there actually is a pretty deep story, in which an unnamed science corporation accidentally starts the undead apocalypse, and they send in mercenaries posing as the United States military to try to contain the outbreak, while you play as a dude caught in all this who just wants to help out and get paid for slaying zombies. Eventually, the company just decides to nuke the city, and they leave your character to his death, and he races out of the city, only to crash and reanimate as a zombie after being scratched by a zombified feline. Bad kitty. An interesting story if you ask me, which is told to you by NPCs that you rescue, a couple of cutscenes, and little blurbs of info in between levels. Every mission has both a primary and a secondary objective, with optional secondary objectives giving you things like extra cash, discounts on upgrades, and sometimes new rides, although a few levels mix things up and had you play as a bulldozer or a fire truck. That largely sums up the story mode, and this title holds 2 additional modes. A endless survival horde mode, which is what it sounds like. You battle it out against groups of the undead who grow in strength and number the longer you survive. Then the third game mode is called Blood Race, which combines combat and racing, both slaying Zeds and blowing up your rivals to hinder their progress. As far as enemy variety goes, Zombie Driver HD has a decent selection. Walkers and runners who can throw items at your vehicle, zombie dogs, strong Zeeks who deal extra damage, fat zombies who can self-destruct near your car and deal a lot of damage, zombie nest, which look disgusting, and bosses, which are zombie plant hybrids, and I enjoyed bosses more on my second playthrough, as I was able to slay them with more ease thanks to my prior knowledge of this game. The graphics are alright. The voice actors range from bad to good, with some sounding like they were handed a script and asked to read it in the most boring voice possible. But again, some were pretty good. The soundtrack was surprisingly enjoyable, with overall good sound effects. In conclusion, this title deserves a 8.1 out of 10 in my opinion. A final note is that this title has a Red Skull helmet as an avatar award, which was a nice little bonus. While the 360 version of this game is gone, it also saw a re-release on Xbox One and can be purchased on Steam. That being said, time to move on to the second game on today's list, which is Darts vs. Zombies. Now this one is a Kinect game that I think was also on Kinect Sports, but had a standalone release, which is what I played, and it's an Xbox 360 exclusive. Developed by Rare and published by Microsoft, this is undoubtedly the worst Kinect game I have ever played, largely due to the absolutely horrendous controls, which maybe had a 15% success rate when it came to reading my moves at best, which is honestly a little sad because the idea of this game is really good, and it is a very creative title that's ruined by being a Kinect game. The objectives of the game are simple. You fight off waves of zombies trying to eat yummy pizza on the middle of a dartboard, and you throw darts at the Zeds to hold them back, and you earn points based off their location, just like a game of darts, and the difficulty increases with every wave. While wave-based zombie horde games weren't anything new at the time, the idea of trying to stop Zeds from eating pizza on a dartboard is humorous in my opinion and very creative. But again, crippled by Kinect controls, as the darts are pretty much impossible to aim, and the Kinect often wouldn't register that I was doing a throwing motion. This was actually the very first Kinect game I ever played, and I thought I had gotten ripped off and that the Kinect itself was broken, so I was a little ticked. But I thought to myself, I wonder if it's just the game and not my Kinect. So I booted up a different game, and it worked fine, followed by another game, which also worked fine. That's when it dawned on me that Darts vs. Zombies is a broken game and that I had wasted 99 cents on it before the 360 store closed. I could have bought 4 gumballs with that money. I will say this though, as a couple positives. After every game, you get to lead a group of Zeeks in dancing, which often read better than the base game, but a nice little comedy touch of being able to lead a horde of the undead and showing off your moves. And this game even sort of has a progression system. It's really basic, but it does indeed exist. You complete challenges to level up, with 10 levels to progress through, and you earn a 5 gamer score achievement for every level, for a grand total of 50 G. Due to the near unusable controls, I only leveled up twice. I think this Kinect game did once have online multiplayer, but it's been shut down, so no comment. Graphically, this game does nail the cartoonish graphics, and actually has a nice little soundtrack. But it's just not really playable, and therefore earns a 0.1 out of 10 from me. If the controls actually worked, it'd likely receive a better grade, but with the way things are, definitely a hard pass. Thankfully, it was only a tiny loss of less than $1, and I got the experience of playing it plus 2 achievements. Yippee! Alright, moving to the third game on our list, another Xbox 360 exclusive, and that is Zombie Wranglers, developed by Frozen Codebase and published by Activision of all companies. This is a interesting third-person action game, and it's a short title as it can be completed in under 4 hours. The story to this game is really weird, as it plops you into the game with not much context, and it feels like you started a movie halfway into it. But to make matters worse in that department, Zombie Wranglers spends the first 75% of the game building up a story, which is abruptly abandoned to start a brand new story, and the ending wasn't really that memorable, so this title certainly did not win any awards for how it was written. Now gameplay-wise, this title is rather unique and more than a little creative, having you exterminate the undead with one of 4 characters. Dean, Amy, Monica, and Yu. I hope I said that right, all of which have their own unique attacks and abilities, and I mostly played as Dean, who's my favorite of the bunch. This game has a massive variety of zombies, such as armored Zeeks, who in order to kill, you must first break their armor and the shields that they carry, and you also had Zeds like postman zombies, who can pepper spray you, homeless zombies, who throw empty cans at you, or massive Franken zombies, whose weak point is some sort of an electric box on their back, just to name a handful of the zombies that this title offers. and your 4 heroes have many tools that they use to fight the Zeeks, like being able to vacuum up zombies with the Wrangle attack, melee punches which only stun your foes, various ranged attacks, like Dean having a wrist blaster, or one character having a bow that shoots freezing arrows. And all characters have a unique Zombomb attack, which have limited use, and you earn more by collecting and saving money, found scattered around the levels, and also earned by offing the zombies, with the Zombombs being things like Yu tossing a distraction doll, similar to the monkey bombs of COD Zombies, or Monica's Zombomb is that she blows a kiss to a zombie, distracting all of the nearby Zeds who attack whichever zombie the kiss landed on. So definitely a one-of-a-kind game. Plus, this title offers local co-op, which turns the game into a top-down shooter. There's also online co-op and PvP, but the servers are empty, so no comment on that. Graphically, this game does not look great, even for a title that went for a cartoonish look. The soundtrack and sound effects are okay, but at least the game runs well performance-wise, other than the camera angle getting a little wonky sometimes. There is something I should praise Zombie Wranglers for though, and that is the comedy, having some humorous dialogue during cutscenes, and every level name is a reference to some form of media, but with the word zombie inserted, like Zombies in Black, or How I Met Your Zombie. And I think that sums up this game pretty well, and it earns a 7 out of 10 by my grade scale. I guess it was worth the $5 I paid for it. Alright, time to move on to the next game on today's list. Moving on to the 4th game on today's list. Oh dear, we have Amy. This game is so bad that even the cover art is super pixelated and low quality. You remember Darts vs. Zombies, that game I talked about earlier? The concept of that game is good, but it got a bad rating because it doesn't work properly. Amy is bad because it's bad, and it is, in my opinion, the worst horror game on Xbox 360, and it's the second worst zombie game on the console. And if Darts vs. Zombies actually worked like it's supposed to, Amy would also be the worst Xbox 360 zombie game in my opinion. Where to even start with this absolute trash survival horror stealth game? It is just so bad. How should I describe it? Imagine Resident Evil 4, okay? But Ashley is 4 times as dumb as she is in that game, and you literally have to hold her hand for 90% of the game by holding down RB non-stop. But you don't even have guns, just wooden sticks, which are worthless against human opponents who can one-hit you with any attack. That's a rough but pretty accurate description of this game. You play as a woman named Lena, who's the caretaker of a idiot child named Amy, who apparently can predict the future, has superpowers, and she's a genius capable of hacking military-grade computers in mere seconds, but she's also a complete and utter idiot with very few survival skills, and she can't talk. It's like, how is she so powerful and smart while also being so dumb? This just makes no sense, and I have no idea what the devs were going for here. Going back to my Ashley comparison, Ashley was never presented as a superpower-wielding genius, so her unintelligence is more forgivable, but Amy is super smart while also being super dumb. Just why? And like I said earlier, you literally have to escort Amy around by holding the right bumper for a good chunk of the game, because she's too dumb to follow you by herself. And while you can stash her in hiding spots, she will come out if you leave her alone for too long. What fun! And while Amy will follow you to an extent without you holding her hand, she is way slower than you when you don't manually escort her, and she can run away. And did I mention that the game sometimes glitches, and Lena and Amy will often stop holding hands even if you keep your finger held down on RB non-stop? Lovely, but somehow, it still gets worse. Unlike most games, where you only have to press one button to sprint, Amy requires two, holding LB to break out a light trot while tapping X to start running. But if Amy is with you, you still have to hold RB, meaning this game requires you to use 3 buttons simultaneously in order to run. Who on earth thought that this was a good idea? Just why? Shifting over to the combat, against zombies, it's okay. Although from what I played of this game, there aren't many Zs in it. You have a simple melee combat system which consists of hitting and dodging, with the only weapon I ever found being a wooden stick, which can break. But to make combat worse, you can only carry a single stick at once, so if it breaks mid-fight, you're just screwed, because unarmed combat does not exist in this game. Lovely. Plus, this game could have really vague and unclear objectives, which just made everything even less enjoyable. Performance-wise, the game could get pretty laggy at times in addition to the aforementioned hand-holding glitch, so this game was a little rough around the edges, one could say. As far as the quote-unquote horror elements go, there wasn't a lot going on here. The VAs and the soundtrack are decent enough, I guess, although this game does contain really inconsistent audio, which doesn't help its case. I have a full-length review going into much more detail about why this game is so awful if you want to deep dive into it, but what I've said in this video covers all the most important stuff, and I give Amy a 0.1 out of 10 by my grade scale, with the only real positives I have for this game being the decent zombie designs, which aren't that bad, plus the good enough OST. A note apart from my review is that this is the only original game that the developers Vector Cell ever made, and they shut their doors completely after their second game, the 2013 reboot of Flashback, didn't fare much better than Amy did sales-wise, and if Flashback is anything like Amy, I see why it failed. Anyways, I want to move on from this crappy game and talk about something more enjoyable, so let's move on to the 5th game on today's list. Batting up as the 5th game on my list is Plants vs. Zombies Pinball for Pinball FX2, which technically is a DLC, but the base game was gratis and you only purchased tables that you wanted. Developed by Zen Studios and published by Microsoft, this is a very solid and highly detailed table with a lot of neat features, and it's my personal favorite table done by Zen Studios. They could have taken the easy way out and tossed together a mid-table, but they went all in, adding things like Zeds occasionally spawning in, and you taking them out with a pinball to earn points and coins, although I admittedly could never figure out what the coins do. You also have the Sunflower, who is the table announcer, and like on PopCap's legendary tower defense game, she drops Sun, which gives you points when collected and can be used to unlock items, like a Squash, who will take out Zeeks, or a Frozen Pea Pinball, which is slower than just the normal pinball, so it's easier to use, and props to the devs for making the pinball a pea, very fitting. In addition to all this, sometimes Crazy Dave drives his store onto the table, and if you hit his car in the right places 3 times, he opens up his store for you where you can buy a power-up. A bit more about Zen's attention to detail. You have Dr. Zomboss at the end of the table, just chilling out, and the plunger is a corn cob. And chompers activate kickbacks if you have one turned on. Gameplay-wise, it's pinball. The goal is to get the highest score possible without running out of balls, and this table has a pretty fun multi-ball mode, activated by hitting a ball into the mailbox 7 times, 4 hits for the word mail, then 3 additional balls to stock up a supply, and after the 3rd, the mailbox opens and they all come falling out. I will also praise this table for having 4 flippers instead of just 2, as some tables have. The soundtrack is the amazing OST from Plants vs. Zombies, a game I have sunk at least 200 hours into during my time here on Earth, so this table is great for me, as I love pinball and PvZ is one of my personal favorite games of all time. Combine these things with Zen Studios in the development chair, you're gonna get a good product. 8.9 out of 10 by my grade scale. I think this was $4.99 before the 360 store closed, and it was money well spent. And while you can no longer purchase this table on the 360, demos are actually still downloadable from the in-game store, so if you have Pinball FX2 on your console, you can at least give the trial version a test run. That, or play it on a different device. As a side note, there is also a Plants vs. Zombies graphic novel based off Pinball. It's short and entertaining, so if you ever want something to read, I recommend it. And on the topic of pinball, the next game on my list is also a Pinball FX2 table, being Telltale's The Walking Dead Pinball. I don't have as much to say about this one as I do the PvZ table, as I'm not a huge fan of Telltale's The Walking Dead. I played the free episode 1 from season 1, and that was it. But even without being very well acquainted with the source inspiration, I'd still say that this is a good title. It has all the pinball essentials, and a bit more than that, having 3 flippers instead of 2, plus a miniature pinball table in the top left of the table. Which, if you can get a ball in there, it's a surefire way to earn some extra points. And this table also has a first-person shooter sniper minigame, although I'm not 100% sure how to activate it, and I believe if you kill all the Zeds without missing a single shot, you get over 2 million points rewarded. Not as advanced as the machine gun minigame on the World War Z table for Pinball FX, but it's a fun little bonus tossed in there. Now, for those who don't know, Telltale's The Walking Dead is a heavily story and choice driven game, and Zen Studios kinda worked that into the table, having mini games which sort of followed this idea. It'd be like, use the flippers to make your choice. You save person A or B. You side with this person or that person. Stuff like that. But again, I'm not too familiar with the source material, so I can't say a lot about it. Graphically, the table is rather dark compared to a lot of other pinball tables. I guess that Zen wanted to give it a dreary look. The OST and the sound effects were pretty nice, I'll give it that. I don't really have a lot more to say about this table, as enjoying a pinball table does often come down to how much you like whatever it's based off, and I was never a big fan of Telltale games in general, but this is a good table by design, and it earns a 8.5 out of 10 by my grade scale. And yeah, 6 Xbox 360 games that can never again be acquired on the console via legitimate means, and while some of them are on different consoles, some were 360 exclusives, and are sadly forever lost it would seem, unless Microsoft would reopen the 360 store, which would be great. Now, I would like to give a couple honorable mentions to Castleminer Z and I Made a Game with Zombies in it. Both of these are highly regarded and some of the best-selling Xbox 360 indie titles before the indie arcade was shut down in 2017, and I never had the chance to play the 360 versions, but I played them on PC and they're both very fun. And for those unaware, Castleminer Z, which is pretty much Minecraft but with guns and lots of zombies, has an upcoming remaster on Steam, which could be out by the time I upload this video, we'll just have to see. Its current release date is Q4 of this year, and the normal version is for sale for a very reasonable $6. If you're a PC user, it's a total blast and absolutely worth playing. And from what I've learned from watching the YouTuber Kobatine, the MP servers are still up and running for those who own the game on 360. Another honorable mention goes out to I Made a Game with Zombies in it, a short, easy, and simple top-down shooter with great hand-drawn graphics, and it has a free remaster on modern Xbox consoles, and the original was ported to Steam, also for free, with 2 achievements and controller support, so a huge thanks to SCA Studios there, although for some reason the modern Xbox version does not have achievements. But hey, the soundtrack is on Bandcamp with an option to download it for the price of $0, but I paid $1 to help out a small two-person company. They also developed the amazing Charlie Murder, one of my favorite Xbox Live Arcade titles, but that's a topic for another day. And that wraps up my video for today, folks, and I know that there were many other games that could have been in this video, like How to Survive and Deadlight, just to name a couple, but I sadly did not purchase those while I had the chance. Have you played any of the games that I discussed today? Which was your favorite? Tell me down below. For any newcomers here, I mostly play, review, and discuss zombie and horror games, so feel free to check out some of my other undead vids if that sounds interesting. And follow me on Gameram if you want behind the scenes action and hints at upcoming vids. As far as our Bible verse of the day, I read from James 1:19 NIV. My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. And going off script here, this video has been a pain in the rear to make. I already recorded it once, it took over an hour, and I had to completely scrap it because I was too close to my microphone. And the audio was just beyond awful. And I don't claim to be a good narrator, I know that I'm not. But thanks to all of y'all who stuck around. And I appreciate all of y'all who watch these longer videos. They're a lot of work to make, and I really hope that y'all enjoyed. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. And like always, none of my content is made by AI, and I don't consent to my voice and likeness being modified, altered, and copied by AI in any way. Take it easy, y'all. God bless. Peace.